Hello and welcome to another edition of the Football Coin Fantasy Scout. Today we're pleased to be talking about the new season of the Europa League, and joining me again is Edward.
Nice to be here again.
How excited are you about the Europa League?
Less excited than the Champions League.
You're honest at least about it. Alright, so we have a bunch, about 100 or 2 matches to go over. So we're going to do that real swiftly, but our hopes for today is to give you some advice about who to choose for your fantasy football draft in the Europa League.
I don't see Europa League being very useful right now. Maybe it's better UEFA to change a bit the competitions, to revive the European Central Cup. Mitropa Cup was, before the war, a very important competition. And right now we have Europa League with so many teams, and the interest is not so high because some teams are happy to be there, and some teams are disappointed because they are not in the Champions League. You can take example Arsenal, that they had a very boring Europa League final against Chelsea. Both were disappointed that were in the Europa League final and not the UEFA Champions League final. So it's not anymore a top-tier competition.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. It's exciting for teams from Denmark and Romania and Ukraine to be playing in a top European
Yes, the big
competition.
dogs are in the Champions League, definitely.
Yeah. Can you? This is actually maybe the major concern. You're a big football fan. Can you follow all of the games that are being played? Match day one?
No, not really. I pick a number of 3 or 4 matches I'm keeping an eye on, and the rest are not on my radar.
Right. So this is actually what we're gonna try and do today. Give you some tips of who you can choose and the fantasy football coin contest. We should mention we've actually broken those down into two contests rather. So just a few tips about that. But let's start at the beginning. So the Europa League last few years, it's usually won by a top team, somehow not in the Champions League.
Let me tell you something. Before, when Napoli won the UEFA Cup, how Europa League was named back then, it was something. Now it doesn't mean so much. Then if you win the UEFA Cup or the Cup Winners' Cup, you can also win Ballon d'Or, but now not anymore because it's not so important.
Right. Well, I know UEFA is considering a second Europa League. We would have again 3 major competitions, as was the case a few years back. Do you think that's a good idea? So that would be basically Europa League 2. I think that's actually the name they're thinking of giving it right now. So like a third tier European competition. Is that a good idea?
We have to see this, but I don't think that Europa League 2 will be a good idea. I think a total reorganization of the competitions will be a good idea.
And I'm a bit disappointed, I'm going to be totally honest, a little bit disappointed of not seeing smaller teams getting to the semis, maybe the final of the Europa League. Seeing some pretty good teams here, just looking at the roster here. I mean, obviously a few really strong teams from Germany, Wolfsburg and Borussia Mönchengladbach. Istanbul, Başakşehir, they've done some good things in Turkey, Sporting, FC Porto from Portugal, but they're not really making it to the finals. Where will we see, United and Arsenal, Espanyol, those teams making it to the final stages?
It will be a disaster for United not to reach the Europa League final, because they are a Champions League tier team, but
they've won it. Was it 2 years ago with Jose Mourinho?
Yes, I'm keeping an eye on CSKA Moscow.
That's interesting.
I'm keeping an eye because they have a strong team, and they have the will to win this competition.
They're starting out. It's a pretty strong game to begin with. Ludogorets from Bulgaria. Obviously, they usually make it through to European competitions as well. So that should be strong. Who else would we pinpoint as favorites to make it to the final? Let's say final 8, final 4.
Moscow, United, Roma, Arsenal, Lazio. These are the teams that,
So the usual favorites, let's say.
yeah.
I'm pretty excited. I'll be honest with you about Wolverhampton. So if I'm not mistaken, this might be their very first time in European competitions. They've done very well last year. They were what they now call best of the rest. So that's 7th place in the Premier League. They've improved their squad a little bit. So they're starting against Braga. That's going to be interesting. United is spared the discomfort of traveling all the way to Astana in their first game. They're playing at home to Astana, so that's going to be a pretty important test as well. Other than that, I think I'm seeing most of the same favorites that you mentioned. I'm kind of excited about seeing Rangers back in European contests. Obviously, Rangers have had a period when they had to climb back up to the first Scottish League.
Just looking on the schedule, man, there are too many games. Too many games. I understand that Europe has to have teams in the European competition and many games, but this is pushed far marketing.
Right.
Already, look at the match Manchester United and Astana.
Well, they're usually pretty evenly matched. Are we gonna see? Last night we saw Genk really getting hammered there. It was a 6-2 victory from RB Leipzig. Will we see something like that in any of the games here? Sorry, RB Salzburg. Sorry.
We will have some even matches, but also some matches that are out of balance.
Yeah, there's some I'm eyeing right now. I mean, I'm not sure about United, but that could happen. Sevilla's playing Karabakh away. That could turn into something.
Let me give you a tip. I'm looking at the match between Basel and Krasnodar. Also, I forgot to mention Krasnodar as one of the favorites of the competition.
Right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. As for the two fantasy contests, it's a bit of a challenge finding your players, mainly because there's so many to choose from, probably a few teams that you might not be all too familiar with. So today we're just going to go around the second contest. So basically these are the matches that start at 8 o'clock, and they include some of the more famous teams and players you might know. What are some of the players we've decided to highlight, Edward?
So we have in the goal Wolves goalkeeper Rui Patricio, defending line 3 at the back with Felipe Luis from Lazio, Patrick also from Lazio, and Papastopoulos Socrates from Arsenal.
Sure.
The midfield line consists of 4. David James from Manchester United.
He's had an exciting start to the season, yeah.
Exactly. Scott McTominay, also from United, and Maitland-Niles Ansley from Arsenal, together with Joseph Willock. The front 3, the forwards, Aubameyang, Arsenal again, Nicolas Pepe, Arsenal again, and Patrick Cutrone from Wolverhampton. So we have almost a full Premier League squad. The reserves are Kevin Trapp from Eintracht, Sead Kolasinac, very strong defender.
We saw the videos.
Yes, João Moutinho from Wolverhampton, and the reserve forward, it's Omrani Bilal from CFR Cluj. Really, he's not playing good now. He's not scoring goals. He's not providing assists. But we take him in the team as a surprise. He can be the man. Once in a lifetime, it's not much, really.
It is a pretty important match for CFR. Obviously, they had a chance of getting to the Champions League. To be fair, this might be more their level, and I'm actually eyeing Dudelange playing just above them. Obviously, a team that recently knocked
Last
them
year,
out.
I think, yes, they were eliminated by Dudelange.
I believe
And
so.
Omrani was in the team.
I think he might well have been. Yeah.
Disastrous result.
So they're going to take on Lazio. They're playing at home. Well, the team you actually surprised me with. I'm going to keep an eye on that as well. But tell me a little bit about CSK Moscow. Why are they a team to watch?
They are very dangerous home. They have a very good and experienced goalkeeper, Igor Akifeev. They have a good defense. Mario Fernandez is in the defense. Vlasic plays in the midfield. Chalov in the attack. They have a very strong and compact team that will pass without problems in the.
I'll be honest with you.
Further.
I'd be happy to see a Russian team win the trophy or
I think-
Turkish or.
I think last year they have won against Real Madrid in the Champions League groups.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Forgetting about that.
it's
Yeah.
not a surprise.
So obviously the last few Europa Leagues have been reserved for Spanish and English teams. You know, I'm a big fan of the Premier League, but I'd be excited to see an outsider win this. I know we talked about this earlier, but in closing, do you think it actually make more sense for teams from Spain and England and Italy to be playing against each other while maybe making a competition where teams from Portugal or Turkey or Russia, obviously good leagues, would have a chance of winning silverware? Would that make more sense?
Yes, definitely so. In this moment, a lot of teams from Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary need a separate competition.
I think so too. I mean, the levels change so much, and the pace of the matches and so on. So, in closing, we're going to be having 2 separate fantasy contests in Football Coin. This will arrive just after the 2 from the Champions League. What else are we looking? So once we're done with that, so obviously a lot of football. This is just match week 1. The weekend should bring us back with the domestic competitions in all of Europe's major leagues. We might well be covering that in a future podcast. So everything from the Premier League to Italy, Serie A to the Bundesliga will be there. They will be hosted through a Football Coin contest. So exciting stuff as well here. Last mention I have is if you're heading over to create your ultimate Football Coin draft, well, thankfully almost all of the players in the competition, I'd say more than 90%, should be free. So you should be more than capable of assembling a top team
Yes,
here.
don't forget to register in both competitions. And before we close,
Sure.
we should talk a bit about Frankfurt and Arsenal match.
Is that the derby, do you think?
Yeah, you can call it a derby. I think Eintracht will take the win.
Wow, that's a bold statement. What are you basing it on?
Is the stronger team in this moment. Unai Emery, and I'm very sorry, is not proving himself at Arsenal. Arsenal play better with the legendary, the myth, the legend Arsene Wenger.
It's hard to see the progress to be certain. Obviously, Arsenal have a few very exciting players, especially offensively.
Look at Arsenal possible lineup from tonight.
I'm seeing one problem already. I'm spotting the highest. I think he's the second highest paid Premier League player, but he's not doing much. That's Mesut Ozil.
Yeah.
Obviously, a huge
Take
talent.
out Ozil, take out Mustafi, bring new players.
That might be it. Are you excited about Nicolas Pepe? I mean, he just
He
dribbled
has to
past Van
prove.
Dijk.
He has to prove. He did nothing in England until now.
That's still, it's still the beginning. But
He has
as
to prove.
for-
I don't want to see him another Malcolm type player who is coming to a
Right.
big team and then he goes on a big payroll to a smaller team. I don't say that Zenit is small. No, they took a draw in Lyon last night in the Champions League. Very well deserved. But we have to see from Nicolas Pepe if he's a new Mbappe or he will fail at this level.
As for Eintracht, I mean, obviously they've lost two of their best players, Jovic and Haller, but you're still seeing a very strong side, right?
And Rebic.
And Rebic, yes.
Yes, they are still strong. They have Filip Kostic, Dani da Costa, Hasebe. Hasebe, it's one of the few sweepers remained in the today's game of football.
And obviously now they have Kevin Trapp in goalkeeping. So.
Hinteregger also a good defender. Abraham have a solid team. They know what they want from every match. Arsenal are not. They have individual players, but they are not looking as a strong team right now. Eintracht will take the win, in my opinion.
That's an interesting choice. I mean, obviously, Arsenal, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. Haven't made it to the Champions League. It's the second year in a row. Not winning the Europa League and maybe even fading to meet the Champions League deadline one more time.
Again,
That'd be the disaster.
Again, about Arsenal, Lacazette, it's out. Seems to be out for tonight's game. Bellerin, it's on a long-term injury.
Kieran Tierney, who's has just arrived to Arsenal, so not great news there. But we will definitely keep an eye on that. That's most of what we have to say here about the Europa League. In closing, we do suggest you head on over to Football Coin, create your fantasy football teams, of course. That's free to do, and rewards in cryptocurrency will be at stake for the best managers. You are the manager. Edward, thank you
Thank you
once
very much.
more.
It's a pleasure to be here, and don't forget to register your draft for the Europa League.
Brilliant. Thank you.